Welcome to Shift School, where we talk with leaders who help us make small shifts to make large, great, massive impact. Today, I'm so excited to have the one and only Trenell Walker. Trenell, I'm so excited that you are here. It's just always a privilege and an honor when I get to have great conversations with you. I saw you last week in Texas, and we've had some great opportunities together. So in the Ziegler world, I'm just going to kick it off. Trenell, tell us where you're from and a little bit more about you.
Hey, I am from the great state of Texas,
Yeah,
and I'm super excited to be here. So thank you for blessing me with this opportunity just to simply come and share. And
yeah.
just to share a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Trenell, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to just be able to simply just shift, like you said, people's mindset from one thing to the best thing. But not
Mm,
only from that, not only their mindset, but their emotional set, because we talk about the mindset all the time, but we
mm,
rarely talk about that emotional shift that helps us be able to move forward in life.
mm,
And that's one of the things that I've learned from my situation as being an athlete at the age of 14, living out my dream
mm,
playing varsity football as a freshman to being able to walk out and have those lights from Bearcat Stadium shine down on the field, capturing my performance,
mm,
experiencing that cold October breeze nipping against my skin as I walked to the left side of the defensive line to take my position, being able to look that quarterback in his eyes, waiting for him to receive the football. And once he received it, tossing it to the running back headed in my direction. And for me, I
mm,
ran the field as fast as I could because I had read that play like a book. The running back saw me and he immediately tried to reverse field. I wrapped my arms around him and began to take him down toward the ground. Unknowing to me, my teammate was coming from the opposite side to assist. He launched himself at the falling running back but missed,
mm,
hitting me instead at the top of my helmet, crushing the fourth vertebrae in my neck,
mm,
bruising my spinal cord, leaving me paralyzed from the neck down. What was supposed to be my high school glory days turned to temporary defeats. But in my mind, and this is where that shift came, temporary defeat does not mean permanent failure because nothing beats a failure but a try.
mm,
I tried a bad attitude. I tried blaming others, but my life didn't shift for the better until I started to take action, be resilient, encourage not only myself and others to never quit, but to also to evaluate, learn, and love, aka the Trenell Effect.
mm. Yeah. I get chills every time you tell that story. It's quite incredible. So for our listeners, you need to go follow Trenell on social media. I'll have his information down in the notes, in the show notes, and go watch. You have some incredible videos out there. It's so inspiring. There's that pivot point in life where it could be an injury that alters your physical body for life. It could be another injury or something else that happens that we allow to cripple us in certain ways. And I've met people who let that define them the rest of their life. And I've met people who have let that empowered that. You're going to have to help me with it because I have not had an injury like this before, but have taken that opportunity to keep going in this passion. And you're such an inspiration to me, and not just because of the chair that you sit in, but the inspirational piece is the words and the heart that you speak consistently. I don't know that there's been any time I've heard a criticism come out of your mouth, and I just appreciate the words of wisdom that you give. So you have the Trenell effect. Tell us about this shift and how it got you to this acronym that you've put together, because I know I've got to walk through this exercise with you. So what is the Trenell effect?
So the Trenell Effect are the seven principles that I have learned to use to power through a difficult situation, and how I actually came about with the Trenell Effect, it's pretty funny to me as I think back to it. One day, I went to go visit Tom Ziegler, my friend, my mentor,
Hmm.
we know him.
Yes,
And he is so funny. So
he
I'm
is.
thinking, that I'm going down there to get this, advice about, a business name and everything like that because I'm like, I need to go see him to get a business name because I'm like, I have the Tea Time Live as a business name. So I'm sitting across the table from him and I'm sharing this with him. And he looks at me and said, Trenell, have you ever thought about doing something unique with your name? He said, because your name is very unique. And I'm like,
Hmm.
huh? I'm coming to I get advice on a business name and you talking about my name?
Yeah.
I didn't say nothing though. I just listened. He said the T can mean take action. The
Mhm.
L can mean love. The rest you're gonna have to figure out on your own. So I went home and I started thinking about it. And so I started going out thinking about the T. I'm like, okay, take action.
Mm.
And I started thinking about my mom and my brother who has been very influential in my life. And watching my mom being a single mother, getting pregnant at the age of 15
Mm.
and having my brother, and then at the age, I think 23, 24, having me, and then having to take care of my grandmother who had a stroke on one
Mm.
side. I watched her all my life take action. And in doing so, there was times when we had more month at the end of the money and the lights would get turned off. But my mom remained resilient. She worked not only two jobs, but three jobs to make sure that we had food on the table, as well as make sure the bills were coming back on. And she
Mm.
always encouraged my brother and I to do the best that we can. I learned the end to never quit from my brother in playing sports of football. He also taught me to evaluate the different situations in my life in order to take the right action. And in doing so, and in evaluating, I learned. But I learned from both of them unconditional love
Mm.
as well as tough love. And I started recognizing, okay, you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the why. And so I started looking at the T take action. Why is that important? Because proper action leads to satisfaction. Are resilient. Why is that important?
Mm.
Because I got to be resilient because two steps back can lead to a great comeback. The E,
Mm.
encourage. Why? You have to encourage in order to help one flourish. The N, never quit. Why? It's impossible to stop a motivated person because they will
Mhm.
never quit. The E, evaluate. Why? Evaluation can help lead to your destination. And the L for learn. Why? Because when you learn, you earn respect for yourself, others, and you can possibly earn more money, money, money,
Mhm.
money. And then the
Yes.
last L, love.
Mhm.
Why? Because love is a gift from
Mm.
above. And
Mhm.
being able to apply all those things have allowed me to have the power to persevere not only in my life, but have a framework to help others persevere through difficult situations in their
Mhm.
life.
Yes. And that perseverance. That's an incredible story. I know that you've helped me work through mine. So with the Trenell Effect, so it is the acronym of your name, and I've seen you work with other people on creating an acronym for their name, and it's not just a Lisa likes lasagna, right?
Mhm.
There's something powerful about it. So tell us about if we're working on our own name and what does that mean and how does that help with perseverance and empowerment and resilience and grit? Like, tell me more about the process of looking deep into our own gifts and talents.
So one of the things I enjoy helping people do is to come up with their own effect, like I did with you with the
Hmm.
Lisa effects, and being able to look at each letter of your name and think about a positive characteristic that has a matching letter or word that goes along with your name.
Mm,
And not only that, once you find that acronym, because the
mhm,
acronym just shows you your value, then you want to find that why, that positive affirmation to help you understand why taking that L and Lisa, um, or let me reframe that, take that T and
mhm,
the Trenell Effect, take action,
mhm.
why that is so valuable to you.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I enjoy doing is helping people create their acronym, which is their value, then helping them find their why, that positive affirmation to explain why the acronym is important, because that right there shows you your effect. Because
Mhm,
whether you realize it or not, you have an effect that is influencing your life and those around you.
mhm. And influencing others. This is the piece where I talk about leadership. So, whether we believe we're leaders or not, whether we're actively seeking ways to become better leaders, people are watching. And so, being able to have that understanding for ourselves helps us be better leaders. Can you tell me about some leadership shifts that you have noticed either in other people or yourself that would be just great stories for our audience to hear?
One of the leadership shifts that I've experienced personally is the emotional shift. For example, when I was depressed or wrestling with depression, I recognized that although I was physically here, emotionally I had withdrawn and disappeared.
Mm,
However, when I discovered that I still had value, I still had the ability to have influence and to be able to encourage,
yeah.
it made me see that emotionally I became alive. Nothing really changed. My circumstance was the same. My paralysis was the same. The thing that changed is that I became emotionally alive when I understand continue to still have value despite the
Mm,
physical limitations. So once we become aware of our emotions, because one of the things I've learned that buried emotions are not dead emotions. They may resurrect themselves when you least expect it, as
mm,
well as that you cannot heal what you do not feel. So once you be aware of those emotions, embrace those emotions, and be able to express those emotions in a healthy way, you will be able to learn to live. And
mm,
live is an acronym that stands for L, laugh. Laugh as long as you breathe.
mm.
The I stands for inspire. Breathe life into yourself by writing down what you're grateful for. The
Mhm.
V is for value. Value every moment by living in the moment. And you can do that by finding 5 things that bring you joy. And then the E is for enjoy.
Mm.
Enjoy the people in your life to the fullest because you never know when it's going to be your last. So when you
Yeah.
have that emotional shift and decide to be able to live, you're able to live life to the fullest. So again, it's not just that mental shift. You also have that emotional shift that will give you life and allow you to LIVE, laugh, inspire, value, and enjoy life to the fullest.
Mm. That's good. I'm thinking about leadership and what it looks like to be in an organization or a group or a position, a job with someone who is not, I'm going to say, alive, like you just said. Um, how valuable that is to be able to laugh with people and then have that enjoyment in your heart and being able to pour that out. I love that. So I've seen you on stages. You've had great opportunities to talk with other people. Oh, you have a book too, and I will put that in the show notes to go get that book, The Trenell Effect. But tell me about your journey. So you started speaking on stages. You know, you have this awesome inspirational talk. and you're transitioning into some other high opportunity spaces of where your heart is and helping others serve and lead. So tell me about those experiences with your speaking, and then let's talk about where you're going from here.
I'm actually glad you mentioned about speaking because it reminds me of what you always talk about serving.
Mm,
So when I was experiencing depression and my mom was having a hard time really finding, getting me out the house,
mm,
she actually had talked to my cousin because she was desperate. She was like, hey, he's just sitting around doing nothing. And so my cousin was like, hey, maybe she was going to the University of North Texas. And she's like, maybe I can get him to come speak to, the classes that I'm in. Let me talk to my professors. Well, she talked to two of her professors, one Sel Flores and the other one Linda Holloway. I was 19 years old and never spoken to an audience
mm,
before in my life. I was there giving the presentation. And just like you have shared with me before, when you get out of yourself and get self out of the way and serve others, it puts you in a different place.
mm,
Your whole life shift. And in that moment that I was able to speak, it shifted me from being depressed to being
mm,
encouraging, knowing that the people that I'm speaking to are like my therapist. They were listening and asking questions, and I was able to be honest and real with them and tell them my story. And that was the beginning of me being able to continue to share my story with
mm.
people, getting me out of that depression, helping me be inspiring, helping me live life to the fullest. And in doing so, it has led me on a path to be able to work with nurses,
Yeah.
physicians, as well as therapists, and helping them understand the patient experience. So now I'm in the process of being able to teach nursing students, physician assistant students. And my biggest thing that I'm getting ready to start doing is working with nurses, doctors in a local hospital,
Hmm.
training them on patient centered care and listening through the Lu formula. And the Lu formula stands for listen, understand, experience equals
Mm,
intimacy into me see. So I'm super
mm.
excited about that.
That's great. For one, I am so appreciative that you have, I'm going to use the word humbled. I don't know how you feel about it, but humbled yourself to a position where you are willing to go to those healthcare providers and say, hey, I'm here. Here's what people in my situation could really benefit from. Here's what I've experienced. It's such a great learning opportunity. My education background is very much experiential learning and learning through experiences, hands on, understanding and helping people. So that alone is, you can't get that in a textbook. You
Mm-mm.
can get bits and pieces, but
Mhm.
really to have that experience, that is, I just really appreciate that you put yourself in that position, that you're willing to say, hey, I'm here and I want to partner with you and help other people get the best experience and care. There's a word that I love to use in serving. It's not a well known word, it's called beneficence. And it's very familiar in the medical world, but outside of the medical world, it's not as common. We normally say altruism, pro-social behavior, volunteering, giving back. It's where those ones are more of a, yeah, I could go do that. Whereas beneficence says I am obligated. I am obligated to go care for people. And what I like to talk about on the serving side is we can feel the obligation, but there's still a shift where we get to be obligated and I get to go help you and because I have this gift and talent. And then there's the, well, I'm here and I have to because I signed an oath. Tell me about what that's been like for you as you've experienced medical personnel working with you.
Honestly, since this is a new beginning for me as far as working with them, as far as prior to me wanting to give back to them, I've had so many different types of experience in the medical field. You know, some of them
Mhm.
have been terrible to the
Yeah.
point of I'm like, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing this, especially if you're doing it for the money or you tired, whatever it is. And then I have people like my cardiologist who takes the time to just sit down. Let me explain this to you. Let me make sure you understand what's going on so you can make an informed decision, make a choice so we can work together as a team. Because
Mhm.
teamwork make the dream work, which is a reason
Absolutely.
why I want to be able to go in and be able to teach these medical professionals more of the patient experience because most of the time they're learning from other professionals.
Mhm.
I am like a patient professor. I am the
Yeah.
patient and the professor that can teach them from my 30 years of experience on what not only I have gone through, but other people with spinal cord injuries may have experienced. And I have the language to be able to speak on their level so they'll be able to understand I'm not only your patient, but I also understand your language. I also
Mm.
understand the things that you may be going through. But I also understand I'm also the missing chapter out of the textbook that you never got to experience until now.
Mhm. Mhm. I bet there's some statistics and some odds that you've beaten. We've never talked about that. Do you have any of those?
Um, Actually, I've been told that there are only 3% of the population that has a master's degree. And I'm
Okay.
grateful to be in that category because I have a master's degree in rehabilitation and counseling, and I am a rehabilitation counselor. And so,
That's incredible. Good job.
well, thank you.
I love that. Okay. So, my big question I ask everybody, what is one small shift for any of our listeners that you suggest that they could take? One small mindset shift, something they could do that will make a huge impact in their life tomorrow, 5 years from now. What does that look like? What's some advice you have for our listeners?
When you wake up in the morning and you go into the bathroom and you looking at yourself in the mirror, look yourself in the eyes and just say, I love you,
Mm,
and just sit in it. But I want you to smile when you say it. Be like, I love you. And sit there in that love for yourself. Because the most important story that you tell is the story that you tell yourself. And if you're
mm,
able to tell yourself, hey, I love you, and you sit in those emotions and embrace that, I'm telling you, it's going to make a big difference regardless of what you have experienced and the things that are around you because you truly know that I love you.
mm,
So that's one of the things that I would say and that I've learned is that you have to love you.
mm.
And my question to you is, can an empty picture, can an empty water pitcher quench the thirst of a withering plant?
Nope.
No. So how are you going to truly love the people
Mm,
around you if you don't love you?
yeah. I'm going to tie in what we learned last week. So we were at the Mini Coach Summit at Ziegler headquarters last week, and Tom talked about Jim Murphy's book. It's Beyond something. I can't remember, but I know the other one he wrote is Inner Excellence. And he talked about the three worlds that we live in our mind. And world three is the one we don't want to live in, and it's full of um, anger. Well, I put anger on my like depression, anxiety, frustration, and like anxiousness, all of these things that, consume our mind negatively and our bodies and our health. And going over one step to world two is our thoughts and our actions and our choices that ultimately put us into world three with the anxiety and depression. And but world one, where we are optimally aligned to live, is love and wisdom and courage. So I love that you said, look in the mirror and say, I love you, or I love me, or I love, like, how do we make that connection? And I will say from my experience, it took me, Trenell, I don't think I told you this story. I've been really good at asking other people their stories, and I have not shared mine. So here we go. Um, I had to teach myself how to smile. How crazy is that? I lived in world three for so much of my life, the anxiousness, the depression, anxiety. Uh, I was a personal trainer for a few years, and my boss would ask me, how are you doing today? I'm like, great, doing good. He's like, can you smile? I'm like, I am. It's like, but you're not. Some of the people are worried that you always are, don't have a smile on your face. And I'm like, but I am. I'm in a great mood. Things are good. And I had to literally look in the mirror and teach myself how to smile. It was the most uncomfortable, ridiculous thing ever because I did not love myself.
Mm.
We start these affirmations in Ziegler. And when Tom first told us about these affirmations, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to lie to myself every day. I'm not going to sit here and read these affirmations. This is ridiculous. And so then I found a way to say something about it, I believed. And it's like, okay, maybe someday I'll love myself, or maybe someday I'll feel value. And then as I kept persisting, then those affirmations started to feel more comfortable and be like, okay, I can see where that might be true in my life. It was this really slow process of learning how to smile for one, so I didn't scare people. But it was loving myself. I that was I'm so glad that you said that. That is an incredible shift. I'm sure for other people it comes really naturally, but for me it was not. A lot of people would say, Lisa, I when I first met you, you were so intimidating, and I was like, why? Well, that's because I didn't smile.
Yeah.
Because I just had that resting face, you know what that face is. I love that. What was that moment for you that I love Trenell?
Honestly, because I hated myself,
Mm,
honestly, because when I got injured, I blamed me for it because
mm,
initially I wasn't going to play football my freshman year. I had made up in my mind, I hadn't got my physical or anything. But when the new head coach came in and I met with him, and he asked me a question. He's like, if you had an opportunity to play with your classmates or play underneath the Friday night lights, what would it be?
mm,
Like, that's a no-brainer. Shoot, the
mm,
Friday night lights. And so when I got injured, I was like, man, I hated myself because I'm like, man, if I would have followed my first mind, I could
mm,
possibly still be walking. I could
mm,
possibly still be, I wouldn't be a burden on my family. And you asked me when was that shift? I'm still in that shift.
mm,
I have to wake up every morning with an attitude of gratitude, writing down, well, voicing what I am grateful for under my phone into my victory list and be able to be appreciative of the moment
mm.
because it's easy to get sucked back in that shoulda, woulda, coulda. And
Absolutely.
that's why I say every morning, just being able to be like, man, I'm grateful for this. Or finding those simple things, for instance, looking in the mirror for myself, finding something I like about myself. Example is I look into the mirror and be like, ooh, I like those cocoa brown eyes. And then I look at my smile and I'm like, ooh, I like that smile. And then I bite my bottom lip and I be like, Ooh, you are a sexy beast.
I
But again, that goes
love that.
into doing those small things to let myself know I love you.
Yeah.
I love those eyes. I love that smile. I love that a sense of humor you got as even saying that you are sexy beast. So again, it's a constant shift every day because our minds are naturally negative and they can pull us back into that depression. And I told myself, I'm never going back there again. I will feel sad. I will
Yeah.
embrace that. But depression, oh no, I didn't shift it out of that. I know what it feels like to be in it, and I know what it
Mhm.
feels like to be out of it. And I'm choosing to be out of it by finding something that I love daily about myself, finding something that I'm grateful for, and just enjoying life and the people to the fullest. That's the
That's,
shift.
yeah. That we try to make things so big and daunting, I feel like, when it comes down to how do we change as humans? How do we be this picture of what we believe success is? But you're right, it's those small daily shifts that get us there. All right,
Wait, wait,
listeners, go ahead,
wait,
Trenell.
one more thing. A friend of
Yes.
mine told me that life is about perception and recalibration.
Mm.
How you see things and then how you adjust to the things that you're seeing. So I just want to encourage you all. It's about
Mm.
perception and recalibration.
Mm. Daily, daily recalibration.
Hmm.
I love that. All right, listeners, what a great lesson today with Trenell. Go get his book. Go check him out on social media. I promise you, you will continue to be inspired by the awesome things he does. And think about the shift he suggested today. Wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and say, I love you. And then see what happens from there. Recalibrate, reset. You're looking for resilience and grit. Trenell is one to talk to. So thank you so much, Trenell. It's been a pleasure having you.
My pleasure. Thank you.